The first initiation. Behind all my manifestations, there is a wish to know myself, to know that I exist and how I exist. But in my contacts with the world, an image of I is formed at the same time as the contact. I am attached to this image because I take it as being me. I try to affirm and protect it. I am the slave of this image. Being so attached and taken in these reactions, I have no attention left to know that I am also something else. As I am, I recognize nothing above me, either outside or inside myself. Theoretically, perhaps, but not actually. So I have no reference with which to measure myself and live exclusively according to I like or I don't like. I value only myself and live passively according to what pleases me. This valuing of my ordinary I blinds me. It is the biggest obstacle to a new life. The first requirement for self-knowledge is a change in my opinion of myself, which can only come from actually seeing things in myself that I have not seen before. And in order to see, I must learn to see. This is the first initiation into self-knowledge. I try to see how I am in a state of identification. To experience how I am when I am identified, I need to know the enormous power of the force behind identification and its irresistible movement. This force, which sustains us in life, does not want self-remembering. It drives us toward manifestation and refuses the movement inward. To see myself in identification is to see what I am in life. But each time I remember my higher possibilities, I go away. I refuse what I am in life. And this refusal prevents me from knowing it. I must be clever in order to catch myself without changing anything, without changing my wish to manifest. I need to see myself as a machine driven by the processes that appear thoughts, desires, movements. I need to know myself as a machine, to be present while I function as a machine. Who am I in life? I must experience it, have a more conscious impression of it. In order to face the force of identification, there must be something present that attends, an attention that is stable, free, and related to another level. I wish to be present to what is taking place, to remain conscious of myself and not lose myself. My effort is made with something that does not belong to my ordinary means. I need a certain will and desire unknown to my ordinary self. My ordinary I must give up its place through maintaining the attention and not forgetting to look. Perhaps one day I will be able to see. If I see one time, I can see a second time. And if this repeats, I will no longer be able not to see. Can we become conscious? The work to be present is in the direction of consciousness, that is, a special kind of perception, independent of the activity of the intellectual mind, a perception of oneself, who one is, where one is, and then what one knows and does not know. In the moment of consciousness, there is the immediate impression of a direct perception. This is quite different from what we usually call consciousness, which operates more like a reflection faithfully accompanying what I experience and representing it in my mind. When this consciousness reflects the fact that I think or feel something, this is a second action that, like a shadow, follows the first. Without this shadow, I am unconscious of, and ignore the original thought or feeling. If, for example, I am angry and beside myself, I only see it as long as I am aware of the reflection which, like a witness, tells me in a whisper that I am angry. The whisper follows so closely upon the preceding feeling that I believe they are one and the same, but it is not really like that. Can we become conscious? It is all a question of energies and their relation, with each energy always controlled by a finer one that is more active, more animating, like a magnet. The energy used in our functions, our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations, is passive, inert. Spent in movements toward the outside, this energy suffices in quality for our life as higher animals, but is not fine enough for an inner act of perception, of consciousness. Nevertheless, we do have some power of attention, at least on the surface, some capacity to point the attention in a desired direction and hold it there. Although it is fragile, this seed or bud of attention is consciousness emerging from deep within us. For it to grow, we need to learn to concentrate, to develop this capacity indispensable for preparing the ground. This is the first thing that we do ourselves, not dependent on anyone else. The practice of being present is self-remembering. Instead of being taken outward, the attention of the functions is turned toward the inside for a moment of consciousness. I need to recognize that I can understand nothing if I cannot remember myself. This means remembering my highest possibilities. That is, remembering what I open to when I come back to myself alone. To remember myself also means to be present to my situation, to the place, the conditions, the way I am taken by life. There is no room for dreaming. Perhaps I will not come to a state that is satisfying. It does not matter. What is important is the effort to be present. We cannot always find a better state that brings a feeling of something new. We feel unable and conclude that there is nothing permanent in us on which we can rely. But it is not true. There is something. In a better state, we can see that we have in us all the elements necessary to come to it. The elements are already here. This means the possibilities are always here in us. What is too often missing is knowing what I want. And it is this that undermines my will to work. Without knowing what I want, I will not make any effort. I will sleep. Without wishing for a different quality in myself, to turn toward my higher possibilities, I will have nothing to lean on, nothing to support work. I must always, again and again, come back to this question. What do I wish? It must become the most important question of my life. Yet this wish for a different quality has no force at all if it comes from my ordinary I. It must be related to something completely different from my ordinary I, and free from the desire for a result. I must not forget why I wish. This must be for me really a question of life or death. I wish to live in a certain way.